I am so thrilled for our next guest to hear all about it. She immigrated to the US with only $3,000 to her name and then getting an MBA from finance from Thunderbird Graduate School. I got to put my glasses on. She
I
started a corporate job and had no freedom, no fulfillment, and was at a financial dead end. And then in 2002, she decided to start her own investment journey and has not looked back. And since then, she has grown a portfolio to more than 70 million in real estate assets. And I cannot wait to dive in to talk to our next guest. Welcome, Michelle Bosch.
Thank you so much, Pam, for having me. It's such a pleasure. Yes, it's been quite a journey. It sounds like amazing, the introduction, but at the end of the day, I'm just a girl that figured something out that is very simple. It continues to be simple, and I basically just build upon that. And we wanted to, together with my husband, start something that would help us get out of our corporate jobs. We were both working for someone else, and we had to back in the day because our green cards and our working permits and visas depended on those jobs. But we were stuck in a situation where we were working 60, 80 hours for someone else, and our paychecks did not match the time and effort that we were putting into those jobs. And that's kind of like how the journey begins. And the fact that we're both not originally from here, I think gave us a little bit of an advantage in that we saw opportunities where others don't. And I say don't because to this day, land investing, which is what we do, when I go into a real estate investors association and somebody asks me, well, what do you do? I say I flip land, and they look at me like I have three heads, because it's not what you traditional think of real estate when you're thinking about investing. You think about fix and flip, you think about rehabbing a home, you think about houses, you think about multifamily, you think about commercial property, but you never think about what's underneath all of these. And for us, it was a perfect asset class only because we didn't have to deal with any repairs, with the competition, with foundations, with knowing what a 2x4 and a 4x4 are, because we had no idea construction wise. We build very different back home. My husband is originally from Germany. They build very different over there. So it was that simplicity of land basically that attracted us. And we found ourselves, in that very first year doing about 30, closing around 30, wholesale flips. And then the second year about 60, the third 150, and the rest is, it's history. It's like 4,500 deals later, with an 8-figure land flipping company and cash flow from land, which it's something that also blows people's mind. We don't just sell land with by wholesaling for quick cash, but we also use seller financing. And so it's been transformational. And then from there, eventually we mastered that. And then we started looking, when it made sense in 2009, to start allocating some of those profits into single family homes for buy and hold. So we hold, a nice portfolio of single family homes. And then in 2016, we started looking at each other and we're like, how can we turbocharge our cash flow? And that's when we started investing in large apartments and syndicating, and now even buying, ourselves without investors, some of the bigger properties, and then looking at 100 units at a time, which has been incredibly transformational in terms of creating this tangible, like real assets, legacy, for our family. But that's not the whole story. I always say that legacy is not just the money that you transfer, but the know-how, the values that went into it, the work ethic, and so on and so forth, which I'm trying to pass on now to my daughter as well. So I know I went a little bit all over the place there, but yeah.
I love that. I want to go back to talking about where, you know, you're born and raised, and
Yeah.
one day you're sitting there as an immigrant, and I've even written a chapter in my book to think like an immigrant. But just
Yeah.
go back of going, okay, oh my gosh, I have $3,000. I'm going to come to the States. I mean, what was, you know, I know you went to corporate America and I did the whole corporate thing too. And my first commercial real estate deal was a land flip. We,
Woo-hoo.
you know, yeah, we bought land and then ended up flipping it to Discount Tires. And I made more money than 1 year of my salary at a big, you know, largest restaurant company in the world. And I was hooked. But just take us back to, you know, that $3,000 and then corporate, but then what made you get into real estate? Because so many people ask me, Pam, how do, you know, 90% of millionaires are in real estate. What, you know, tell us about your first deal or that, you know, how you went from corporate to really getting into real estate. So many people want to do that.
Yeah, so let me then take a step back. So I come from Honduras. This is a tiny little country in Central America. It's a third world country. My mother became a widow when I was very young. My father was an attorney. My mother is now an retired elementary teacher. My father passes away, but about a couple years before he passed away, he invested in a commercial piece of property, not land, but just property. It's and when he passes, basically, that income, that rental income from that property is what really keeps my mother afloat.
Mm.
And she raises me as a single mom, and thank goodness for that, you know, other source of income. And so from a very young age, I really understood what it was like to have somebody take care of you financially, passively, without really being there. Like I understood, like it was like a visceral understanding because he had made the decision, he purchased that property, and thank goodness for that property because you know his law firm, if he was not billable because he was gone, there's no business there, you know? And so that complemented my mother's income, and it, I think, transform how I looked at the world. But still, we were not the ones that had made the decision to buy. You know, we were just managing, or my mom was managing, and so on and so forth. But we weren't really, and she is not even to this day, the investor type. Yeah. And so for her, with an educational background as a teacher, her lesson to me was, okay, go get a great education, go get a great job. You know, she had tenured as a teacher, so she's looking for me to look for something that is safe and that is secure from her perspective, you know? And I honor that, you know, her income was also invaluable to help us, you know, stay afloat, and for her to even send me, you know, to a private school where I could learn English. You know, I owe a lot of that, her vision to me being able to be here with you today and be able to communicate and now, you know, make an impact on others. So then I come to this country. I, you know, originally came to get a finance degree. And with your finance degree, you get a year of practical training. I get a job, though, you know, that company is really happy with my work. They sponsor my visa, but, you know, but 2 years into it, I'm working a lot. My husband is doing the same thing and finding himself a job that, you know, will sponsor his green card and so on and so forth. He's billable, he's traveling 100% of the time. And the reason we decided to look for something for a side hustle was an incredible amount of pain. We hated being away from each other. Again, the time and effort that we were putting in, and for us, we came at some point to the realization, gosh, is this really the American dream? We have payments on our home, we have payments on the car, we have payments on the fridge, we have payments on our washer and dryer, we have payments on our, you know, on everything. And we're making good, you know, it's a good paycheck what we're earning, but we're really not moving forward truly financially. And so I think that's when I said to my husband, we need to start looking into real estate because, in my family, this is what happened. And if somebody could provide for us, financially, passively, because he wasn't there, real estate could be the vehicle that allows us to have the time freedom that we want to go visit, to travel the world, to be with each other, et cetera, et cetera. And that's kind of how we started looking. And we then looked at maybe single family homes. We put a junker under contract here in Phoenix in a historic neighborhood. And the junker had foundation issues. It had all kinds of issues. We had offered, more than we should have. We were not able to, to wholesale. And somehow, somewhere along the lines, after that very first experience with houses, with the complications that come with trying to flip a home, we came across something called tax liens and tax deeds. I don't know if you're familiar. And I went to an auction, and what I noticed at the tax deed auction, which was in California, was that most of the properties that were coming up for auction were actually pieces of land that were 5 years delinquent in taxes. So my idea was like, wow, so these people didn't pay their taxes for 5 years. What if I could reach out to them in year 2 or year 3 or year 4, even before, it comes to the auction? And that's kind of how we developed our own methodology. And we now directly contact sellers, whether it be direct mail, texting, cold calling, and so on. And that's how we found our very first deal. And here in northern Arizona, it was a piece of property close to the White Mountain Lake area that we had put under contract for about $400. And
$400?
$400.
Wow.
And the value of the property was probably around $7,500 to $8,000 for the piece of land. And we got it under contract for $400. And then it was, oh my gosh, I need to market this parcel. And we started marketing it, and we found a buyer. We actually marketed, and this was this was an epiphany, because our marketing back then was putting an ad in the classifieds in the newspaper, but also putting a for sale by owner sign. So we drove up there, putting a for sale owner sign on the property. The neighbor comes out and says, hey guys, are you the owners of the property? We've been trying to reach you. I think they had been trying to reach the prior owner, reach you guys, because we would be interested in buying the property. And right there on the spot, they offered us $4,000, and we said, let's do it. and that's basically the story of those first $3,600. But we, in spite of our paychecks, like I said earlier, because we had all these monthly payments, we had about $3,000 worth of savings between my husband and I. So this $400 offer, it $3,000, that would leave us with $2,600 to play. And so on and so forth. But very quickly, back then we considered it a big risk. That risk of making an offer for $400 and buying that property really paid off, because in very little time, within a matter of just a few weeks, we were able to turn and 10x really that and turn that into 4,000. That was just like the beginning. That was kind of like the carrot that proved to me, oh my God, this could really work. And if it can really work for one, can I start basically acquiring these properties en masse and selling them en masse? And there was a time where we were buying about 80 parcels a quarter, and having quarterly auctions where we were selling anywhere between 150 and 200 pieces of land a quarter. So that's how we get to this incredible volume of almost 5,000 pieces of land, with us selling some of those pieces of land just cash, and some of them using seller financing. The seller financing also was the result of some early days, somebody contacting me and calling me and saying, Michelle, I love those 2 acres of paradise that you're advertising out here in Yavapai County, Arizona, which is kind of like the Prescott and Sedona area. and I'm a hunter, and I really, really like, I'm familiar with this area, and I don't have, you know, the $15,000 that you're asking, but I could probably possibly put down $3,000, and we had purchased a property for $1,500. So when he's offering me $3,000 down, I have my $1,500 back plus an additional 1,500, and now I'm creating, and now he's like, and I could possibly make, like, if I stretch it, I could probably make $300 monthly payments every month until I pay it off. Would you guys consider that? And so that's kind of how we structure our deals to this day, you know, where the down payment is more than what we have the property under contract for, and we're able to create residual income. With the difference that now, Pam, I'm no longer buying the properties outright. We're using double close or assignments, and we're able to basically get into the deal and get out without using any of our own money. Yeah.
Wow. So it sounds like, yeah, it sounds like you're definitely self-taught, because
Yeah.
I think, you know, so many women, especially women, want to invest in real estate, but they always, you know, fear of losing money and then not having the knowledge. And it just sounds like your story from 400 and 10xing it to 4,000. You have a finance degree, but I can even do the math on that, that I'm sure you were hooked and, you know, self-taught yourself after, you know, now being in it a long time. What an incredible story.
Thank you. Yes, it definitely, there was a lot of trial and error, a lot of wasted time on doing the wrong things at the wrong time for the wrong reasons, you know. There was a lot of wasted money, sometimes on marketing for lead gen, from just not knowing which are the better areas and so on and so forth. But that's the whole purpose now, is for me to have a conversation like this with you today, and, you know, perhaps help a women realize that you don't have to go over the trial and error and in the wasted time and money and energy and effort, you know, and that there is a way to collapse that, that there's even this opportunity out there, you know, if somebody has not thought about land and land investing and land flipping, land wholesaling, but this is an asset class that is simple, and because of the simplicity, you can scale, which is just a fancy word for you can do volume, and you can scale actually in two ways. You could scale with volume, numbers of deals per year, but you can also scale, you know, pivoting to higher priced properties. We now have we coach now others, and some of our coaches now, you know, especially, you know, I'm thinking of a lady right now, she specializes on higher priced properties. So she doesn't want anything under $50,000 or $60,000 profit per flip. So she's looking at higher priced property, and so she's able to scale her income, let's say her income, and still make, you know, a multiple six-figure, almost seven-figure income per year by looking at higher priced property. She didn't start there, you know, we don't have to start there. If our confidence is, okay, I need to get a hang of how do I go from the process of acquiring the piece of land, or, you know, finding the area, finding the sellers that are willing to do, you know, to sell for a discount, because we buy for anywhere between, I would say, 10 to 50 cents on the dollar. And so finding the seller, making an offer, putting it under contract, marketing that property, finding a buyer, and closing, you know, there's now that that process has been you know, we have it down. It's like it's dialed up, you know. And so yeah, it is my pleasure now to share this with other women, and show them that this is even an option, that you can scale with volume. You could, you know, if you feel comfortable right now flipping $5,000, $10,000 land flips, smaller price property in the land area, that's a good way to build your confidence, to build your courage, to build your capability, and to then to commit to higher price properties in the future. You know, I like to talk about the 4 C's, you know, commitment, courage, capability, and confidence. And sometimes you need to commit to something, and sometimes it might be smaller price properties, and then you muster the courage to go out there and, you know, actually do the work, take some action. Because I think a lot of ideas and visions, I think for women, Pam, kind of like die in the chaotic mess of a startup because they don't know where to start, what is the first step to take, and so on and so forth, you know, or they don't have an existing business, or they don't have a business model, you know, that could allow them to make those dreams of, you know, paying off their debt, of sending their kids to private school, of owning your own home, of, you know, there's so many dreams and visions that we all have out there. For each of us, it's different, you know. But sometimes those visions and dreams kind of like, I always say, you know, they kind of like die in startup because people don't have an existing model, you know, to put that vision, to fuel, you know, that vision with. And then flipping, that's basically what that has been for me.
I know I feel like it's always that first deal is always the hardest. And even when after I left Brinker International, developing more than 50 Chili's restaurants from the ground up, you know, I could never get into commercial real estate myself when I wanted to learn about land and development. So I collaborated and partnered with somebody who had been doing it for 50 years. And it sounds like you're the same way. You know, I've learned a lot of mistakes, 18 years now having my own company in development too. But you have to like collaborate and team up. I think it's so interesting, you know, reading your background and that you have a podcast with your teenage daughter to teach her early real estate. I'd love for you to share, you know, how, you know, if she can get started at a young age, anyone at any age can get started in, you know, learning how to build wealth in real estate. I'd love for you to share her story.
Yeah, absolutely. So so Sophia is 16 years old, and for me, I think the we always knew that part of, you know, creating generational wealth, because wealth is not just the assets from my perspective, but wealth is, you know, are you creating emotional value for others? Are you, you know, staying healthy, you know, both mentally, emotionally, and physically? How are you treating people when you conduct business? What values, you know, dictate, you know, how you conduct yourself in the marketplace? I knew that I needed to pass this along as well, you know, to her. And about a year and a half, I actually was really, really sick, Pam. And it was a situation where I'm perfectly fine now. We got it treated and everything, you know, is okay. But it was a situation for the very first time in my life where I couldn't outwork myself out of the situation, and kind of like had to surrender. And in that surrendering, I, you know, I started evaluating, okay, you know, I have been creating an incredible impact in sharing, you know, land investing and land flipping with others. I would like to create some structured time to really spend time with Sophia and start passing some of this know-how over to her. And that's kind of like how the, you know, the idea of the podcast started. And we're basically on a mission right now over the next 5 years to help her build a 7-figure net worth, basically get to her first million. And she's on her way. On April 16th of this year, she actually closed on her very first land flip. It's a property that she put under contract for $6,000. We had her select a county and area here in Arizona. She actually selected Maricopa County, where Phoenix is at. You know, we found 5 acres that she was able to, you know, after contacting the seller, put under contract for $6,000. And because she's studying, you know, and going to school, she was marketing the property, but she was missing calls from potential buyers. So we had her hire actually a realtor, because I could have taken the calls, but then if I take the calls, it's my deal.
Right.
And we wanted her to basically go through the process of learning and having stake and skin in the game, and And I'm like, Sophia, you know, I think what you're gonna have to do, and this was a property that, you know, was worth about $40,000.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna probably have to, you know, I'm gonna have to help you hire a realtor. This is what you need to do in order to find a realtor, a good one, you know, the Michael Jordans of realtors for land. And so we reached out, we found one. You know, within, I think, 4 days of that property being listed by the realtor, she had 2 offers, one for cash for $36,000 and one with seller financing for $40,000. And in the seller financing, of course, was my favorite, only because that gives her the opportunity not to just get more money for the property, but also, you know, get a taste for that residual income. And so that seller from that second offer gave her $15,000 down. So it was enough to basically pay the $6,000 to the seller, pay the realtor, and you know, commission as well, and pay for closing costs, and still have some cash in her pocket. And I think she ended up with about $3,900 in her pocket once everything was said and done from the down payment. But now she has a note of, you know, $25,000 that they're paying off every single month. I think they're making payments of $516 every single month. So now for the next 5 years, you know, she's so excited because already in May they started making payments, and in May she goes to her bank account and she's like, $516 more in my bank account, you know, that she can use towards gas for her car, towards, you know, if she wants to go to concerts. It's just a way for us to help her basically learn, I think, what a lot of us already know, and that is that in order for us to create passive income, we need to create active income first. Whether that comes from a job or from a land flip or from whatever it is, that you need active income. Basically, you need to create income statement wealth first. And once you create income statement wealth, you can then use that to start buying other properties, because now, you know, she's gonna hopefully not blow through all that money, but, you know, continue reinvesting in her business and maybe do, you know, right now we're on track to possibly doing anywhere between 3 to 4 more flips this year. And if, you know, we have these margins, you know, by the end of the year, she could probably, you know, be sitting in a good $6-figure cash amount that then she can start looking into, ooh, can I invest maybe in an Airbnb or in a single family home, you know, to rent, and so on and so forth. And so that's basically my way of teaching her, okay, there's income statement wealth from your flips, but then we need to start eventually bringing that over into balance sheet wealth, which is actually owning assets and controlling an asset, so that that asset, you know, spits out income for her, and she can have these moments where she goes to her bank account and she'd be like every month, like, oh my God, there's $500 more than my bank account, you know, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's kind of like the reason behind it, and how I have been structuring, you know, some of that passing over of knowledge, not just by talking about it, but by actually doing it, and her kind of like, you know, learning by proxy as well, you know, and actually doing the work.
So did you loan her the $6,000? I mean, maybe some viewers are like, I don't even have $6,000. So did you loan that? And do you?
I actually loaned her the money. I loaned her $2,500 for her to send letters to vacant landowners here in Maricopa County so that she could find her deal. So that was the original loan, but for the $6,000, she didn't have to come to the table with any of her money, because the down payment of $15,000 was enough to cover the seller. That's
Wow.
how we structure the deal.
Right.
So loan to us was, you know, back to us, payback was $2,500.
So is that what, so you could teach people and show them how to do that first deal? I know you're based in Arizona. I'm based here in Dallas. You know, Texas, we still have, you know, a lot of land. Do you help people all over the United States or primarily in the Southwest?
No, we flip nationwide. We flip, you know, in New York, we flip in Florida, we flip in Texas, we flip in the Carolinas, we flip in Virginia, we flip California, Washington, Oregon, Hawaii, pretty much nationwide. I mean, there's dirt everywhere, you know?
Right.
And the only thing is that we do is that we focus on specifically in 3 types of land. Um, and the first type is infill lots. Basically, think about a residential area where there's homes already, and then there's a lot that is empty. Yeah. So that's one of the, you know, types of property. The other one is path of growth, which is think about land 45 minutes, you know, from the metro area out.
Mhm.
This is how her 5 acres is in the path of growth here of Phoenix, Arizona. So her 5-acre lot that she just flipped would fall into that second category. And then we have recreational land. Think about 2 to 3 hours from a major metro city that has a lake, that has outdoors opportunities, that has hunting, that has basically things that people want to do outdoors, where they would want to either build or bring their RVs or go and, you know, play with their ATVs in the weekends. You know, I have sold quite a bit of 40-acre parcels, for example, to people that say, which in the beginning blew my mind, because I was thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want a 40-acre parcel full of washes, for example, because how am I gonna build? But in 40 acres, even if it has washes, you know, you still find a spot, you know, for a building site and so on. But then I had people that were like exclusively looking for that so that they could go ride their ATVs on the weekends up north. And that's what, you know, we see a lot of people doing, you know, with their RVs here, you know, every single Friday at 3:30, everyone is going up the interstate, heading up to northern Arizona, trying to escape the heat and have some fun and play with, you know, with their kids. And that's basically our target market. That's our buyer, you know, for this recreational land. Usually my buyer for the path of growth is either an investor, a neighbor, or a builder. And for infill lots in the city, it's definitely a builder. It's definitely a builder. That's usually my buyer. Yeah. So yeah, so we teach we teach people to do it everywhere in the US, in all states, and some states are better than others. I like to focus on I would say from the center of the US south, so that I can market year round and I don't have to worry about a piece of land being under 2 feet of snow, you know, and so on and so forth. But we have students that are flipping in the New York area, you know, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and all of these areas. So it's preference. It's where it makes sense, you know, for you to do it. And we have free master classes that we usually teach, you know, people. So if anyone is interested, you know, you can always find me on social, and I'm always promoting, you know, an upcoming class at some point, you know, that people can just join. Our I would say our flagship class out there that we teach is called the Land Profit Masterclass. It's usually 5 days of basically going through the whole process of finding an area, getting a list of sellers, sending them offers, getting it under contract, marketing and selling, basically the whole enchilada, the whole process, pretty much, from A to Z. And that, you know, if anyone is interested, they can go to landprofitmaster.com. We usually have those like every 6 to 8 weeks, you know, and they're free and they're pretty neat because there's a lot of demo time and there's a lot of implementation support from ourselves and from our team. So people can ask questions and actually implement, like, okay, let's go find a county or let's select an area, you know, and actually don't just receive the information passively, you know, consume, but let's actually do it. Let's get some wins right now in this time that we're together.
And do you collaborate with people and team up with them on those deals?
In some of the, yes, we, for people that join our, you know, our coaching program, we do JV. We basically sometimes do a lot of the initial acquisitions, you know, and all of the heavy lifting on the finding of the deal and putting it under contract. And then also, as you know, JV on the sales side, where we're gonna sell it, you know, and we're just gonna split the profits 50-50. So yeah, we do. And, but my goal is not necessarily, for somebody to bring us deals. My goal is for you to be fully equipped to go and do the deals on your own. But if you need it, you know, a transactional funder, or the deal is too big, or it's a little bit over your head, yeah, let's JV. Why not? You know, absolutely.
That's great. And
Yeah.
yeah, the land flipping is a great way to get into real estate. Even like, look at that, $400. I mean, that's cheaper than most women probably spend on a purse, but you know,
Yes, yes, yes,
I
yes.
wanted to also talk to you, Michelle, regarding your involvement in multifamily, because a lot of people, you know, after single family, it seems like they go into multifamily. I'd like to hear what you're doing on that investing side or how people can get involved.
Yeah. So I think our investing, Pam, has kind of followed our personal development journey, you know, and in that, you know, we started with land, we mastered that, we have a team in place now that runs with that business. Then we started passing some of those, you know, profits into single family homes. That is, you know, that's a portfolio that is humming, that is doing great, fantastic, you know, buy and hold. We've gotten out of certain markets to buy in other markets, only because it was the right thing to do. You know, there's properties that I bought for $50,000 that were now worth 250,000. So it's time to, you know, cash in on some of those, and rather, you know, roll those profits into other markets. But that's going, you know, and at some point in that journey, we realized that if we wanted to build our cash flow, our personal, you know, financial statement of monthly cash flow coming in every single month to a certain number, you know, and for us that number is in the seven figures, that it was going to require a lot of purchasing of single family homes to get there. And so it made sense for us to look at 100 units at a time. And that's when we started looking into multifamily. And in multifamily, I have to say, this wasn't self-taught. Our very first deal, we actually partnered with somebody that had been doing this for 10 years prior. Yeah. And that not just knew how to source the deal, but that actually was really good at fundraising, but that also was really good at operating the property and at disposition, selling the property. Because if you think about it, in the
Right.
multifamily space, you hear of a lot of people getting into multifamily, but they're really only good at one of those four. They're either great at fundraising or sourcing the deal, you know, or they're great operators, but they need somebody else to source the deal. And they're great operators, but perhaps they missed the market and didn't sell when they should have sold. Or anyways, or the way in which they got into the deal, basically the financial structure in which they got into the deal is now, with higher interest rates, having them come to a situation where they are having to refinance, and they cannot do that because otherwise they would need to do a capital call, you know, because they cannot afford the new loan with the new interest rates. So so that's, you know, that's an asset class that we definitely, you know, collaborated with someone where they said, okay, you know, I have the deal, but I'm busy with a few other projects. So if you help me fundraise, you know, we could go 50-50 on this, you know, on this property. And then I will teach you how to fund the deals, how to operate, and how to exit out, you know, profitably, so that you can actually deliver on the promise to your investors, you know, because this is through syndications, pretty much. And so so that's how we started. We started with 94 units in North Carolina, and then, you know, we started moving into markets like Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, Texas, Arizona, and those are pretty much the markets that we have, you know, remain and still are. We were, for a minute, we were in Oklahoma, and we made almost $4 million in that minute that we held that for like 3 years. Basically, we went in there, improved the property, caught rents, you know, to where they needed to be, really transform the community and turn it into a first-class community. I'm always of the opinion that you need to leave things better than you found them. And I don't want, I never think of, when I think about being a landlord, I never think about being a person that provides housing, Pam, but being a person that provides a home and a community. And so we're really good at basically creating community. And yeah, we held that asset for 3 years, sold it, and made a lot of money for our investors, and of course, you know, for us as well, because there's usually a split. But usually our syndications are in markets right now. We're focusing exclusively Texas, Arizona, and Florida. Those are our markets that we're focusing on. We want basically a nice, healthy population growth. We want areas where there's a diverse employment base, where there is, you know, in the sub-market where there's an opportunity to catch the property to, you know, healthy, you know, market rents, and so on and so forth. And we're looking basically to do value add. That's
Right.
mainly our you know, our specialty has been value add. Light value add, not complete repositioning, because we have done that before. We're actually almost to the end of finishing a property in Louisiana, and it's a complete repositioning, and we learned that, you know what, we did it, it's good, but that is not necessarily what I would like to specialize on. So, you know, but sometimes, you know, when something is working really, really, really well, you know, on the value add asset class type, you get a little bored and you're like, oh, let me try this repositioning one, this complete repositioning. Just, you know, sometimes I don't know if it's boredom or if it's or it's that you want to continue to get to be challenged, you know, by the next thing. And that's how we, you know, we ended up with that deal, but it's almost to the finish line. And now we're like, okay, so we did that. We tried it on like a pair of shoes, you know, like you would a pair of shoes. And 3 years later, we're almost there, and we're like, okay, we can do this, but it's not our cup of tea, for example. So we're trying to stick to value add, you know, and some light repositioning, but not full repositioning, like we did there. And yeah, and specifically in those markets, we syndicate, you know, from investors. A lot of our investors, to be frank, you know, a lot of our students in the land space are basically with the money, with the champagne problem of creating enough cash flow there, that they now need depreciation to offset that income. And so, you know, we've been able to teach them how to create cash injections, you know, and so they're sitting now on cash, and then now they're, you know, some of our investors are people that, you know, have known us now, and that we're able to produce for them there, and now trust us to produce for them in the multifamily side and come and invest, you know, their cash profits from the land in the multifamily side. And that's kind of how we got started. And that's kind of how it evolved and where we're at in terms of markets and the types of properties that we're after. Usually it's, depending on the deal, it's anywhere between a 60-40 or a 70-30 split, you know, in favor of the investor, meaning that we're going to split, you know, cash flow, and we're going to split the profits at the end when we sell the property in a 70% favoring the investor. Wow. And, you know, and 30% for us, you know, doing the work. I think it aligns really, really well in that it keeps us all motivated and looking towards having the same goal, you know. We usually don't charge our deals property management fees, because we believe that if we're doing a good job, you know, we're gonna do well. All of us are, you know, we're gonna be, you know, the cash flow is gonna be there for distributions on a quarterly basis, and the profits are gonna be there at exit, you know, if we're doing and operating this property, you know, in a very, very, very well-oiled machine type of manner. So I think, but there's some syndicators that, you know, that charge management fees. It's,
Right.
I mean, everyone has a different way to do it. It's just, I think, something that we like to do is that, you know, we don't charge that. We just think, okay, we're really aligned when we don't charge it. Otherwise, I'm like, am I just working for that, you know, for that
Right.
management fee? You know what I mean? So, or am I really working for us to really exit out of this investment in the best possible way, you know? And so, that's usually how we structure our deals, and that's how usually people can invest if anyone is interested in that. You know, you could go to michellebosch.com and join basically my early priority investor notification list whenever we have a, you know, a deal. You would probably be the first one then, you know, that I would reach out. And if you go in there, actually, we would get on a call and I would get an idea of what, you know, that person's goals are for investment. We need to know each other as well, you know, and I need to know that, you know, our syndications and our model are the right fit for each other. Yeah.
Right. Do you have a minimum that is
Um,
required I know it probably depends on property, but do you have a minimum to get into one of your investments?
Yeah, and $50,000 is the minimum, and
Mhm.
you know, we have sometimes taken less, and I'm okay with that, because now I'm giving the opportunity to somebody to invest in a construct, you know, that was always only available to the big guys.
Right.
But if somebody says, you know, I had a lady say, Michelle, I have you know, I have $25,000 in my Roth, and
Mhm.
I would love, you know, to invest that money. I have made the exceptions. So yeah. So by the way, not everyone knows that you can invest out of your retirement, you know, funds into syndication. So just putting it out there, because sometimes, you know, financial planners um, don't want people to know about that, and they want you to, you know, have your money with, for example, the Charles Schwab and the big guys, versus in investing in stock and in an index or a fund and so on and so forth, not realizing that there is this opportunity, or on purpose not making, you know, your client knowledgeable that you have the possibility to invest in real estate if you have a custodian, you know, that that can help you set up, for example, a self-directed IRA, and therefore your IRA is the one investing, you know, into the syndication and so on and so forth. So
Right. I'm
yeah.
so glad you shared that, because I have been in, real estate or some format, and I just found out about that concept of a self-directed IRA with a custodian only last year, which I can't believe. In so many companies, I mean, so many people, nurses, dentists, doctors, a lot of people that are still in corporate have those 401ks and that money sitting there. And to put it in a real estate asset, like to
Yeah.
team up with, to work with you, is so much more fun to me than just sitting there. So I
Yeah,
just I think that's great. And I'm so glad you shared that, for
yeah,
people to
yeah.
be able to do that.
Yeah, so many women that I sometimes talk to, they're like, Michelle, I had no idea that that
Right.
was in an option, you know, and that there is actually big, huge companies, you know, as these third-party custodians, you know. We have like 3 different that we recommend. I'm like, you go vet and see, you know, based on fees, which one you like best, you know. You know, that can help you set that up, and it's usually not something that is widely advertised there and shared with by the financial planning community, because they want you to keep those funds in the stocks that where they are being compensated for you having your money in. Because once they put the money into a self-directed IRA, that financial planner is not getting any money from you, and that's the reason why I think it's a little best kept secret, you know.
Right.
And but not so secret anymore. I think if you and I make it a point to share it with other women, you know, in a platform such as this, slowly, we can start making sure that many more people know about this. Yeah, way to invest.
Yeah, I love that. And well, thanks for sharing that. I'm sure we could just talk forever and ever in real estate. And I always ask my guests, what is on your bucket list, both professionally and personal?
Okay, so professionally, I would say we have three lines of business right now. We have our coaching company, we have our multifamily business, we have our land flipping business, and for me right now, we're really working hard on making sure that all of those three businesses are like what we like to call self-managing companies. We now are at a point where we have leadership in each of those, VPs of sales, VP of marketing, and so on and so forth. And so we are trying to get out of a lot of like the operational stuff in all three lines of business. So that is a professional challenge for us. We already got a taste of it. I was actually on vacation for 2 months, and my husband was out for 3 months. He was doing the Camino de Santiago pilgrimage.
Oh, wow.
And I would have to say that the leaders in all three businesses were humming along. There were a few things where we still had, I think, in that 3-month period, like 4 calls, but we're on our way, towards having those companies being self-managing. But yeah, there's still a little bit of work to be done. So I would say professionally, that's what I'm looking forward to. And then on a personal level, I think that personal one is very tied to the first one, to the professional one, giving me the opportunity to basically spend as much time as I can with Sophia. She's an upcoming junior in high school. That means I have her for 2 more years, and I become an empty nester. And so spend as much time as I can with her. Help her, with her little, budding land flipping business. She's also exploring, other business models out there, and really helping her basically get a lot of the, I would say, education that I cannot expect, her high school to give to her, or probably even college, regardless of what she decides, because I had a finance degree, and nowhere in those classes was there any conversation about how can I apply this as an entrepreneur, and I know that based on the lifestyle that she sees us having, I know that she's probably going to become an entrepreneur as well, and so it's now at this point, I think it's in her DNA as well. And so yeah, creating that time freedom, and that time freedom can only come from having the right who's and the right seats, and really building them up, still having access to us as business owners, and sometimes visionaries for each of the companies, but really stepping out so that we can, make the most out of these last 2 years that we have together before she's off to college. Because I think I'm gonna be. I got a little taste this summer. She actually was in Oxford at a business program for 2 weeks, and she had never been to a away from home camp. And leaving her there and going and taking a plane, to a different country and leaving her there, that was like, oh my God. I finally understood what my mother went through when she left me here. It was like a full circle moment for me. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. It's like, freedom of time. That's what I think all entrepreneurs and a lot of us are looking for. We're looking for freedom of money, freedom of time, freedom of relationships,
Yeah.
To create relationships with the people that we want to, and freedom of purpose, And right now I'm finding a lot of that purpose in just focusing on not just in impacting other women, but specifically impacting this one little woman, in my house, that has incredible amounts of potential and is actually, as a teenager, willing to listen to her parents, which is not something normal, you know. So for as much as she's willing to listen, I want to be there for her.
Oh, I love that. I know my husband and I were empty nesters now, but I know we have two sons, and our oldest son, after high school, he went to the University of Arizona in Tucson. And oh my gosh, that first until, December, until I came home for Christmas, oh my gosh, it was so hard. And then our youngest ended up going farther he went to San Diego State and even went farther. So I know exactly how that is and how fast time goes. And I know back to the business, and I always tell, our sons and people, if you're not waking up on Monday loving what you're doing, you're completely in the wrong position. But I have thoroughly,
there's always times to course correct and change your mind, it's always a possibility. No decision is irreversible, really. So
right. That's true. And we're always just keep learning more. But I think we can both concur in your daughter and husband, and, really getting into real estate can change your life. And I thoroughly have enjoyed talking. How can our guest, I will post all of your information, but what's the best way to reach out to you, Michelle?
I would say go on social. I'm on Instagram, Michelle Bosch Official. I'm on Facebook, Michelle Bosch as well. You can go michellebosch.com. Or you can just go into iTunes and go to becomingwealthy.com and basically download the podcast, subscribe. It's a lot of financial and money lessons, basically. And it's not just defensive, like, oh, let's learn about budgeting, Sophia. No, it's about also what's the difference between single and compound interest, and what does this mean for a particular, property that we're looking at. Like I'm trying to basically, yes, simplify that financial and demystify the numbers, because a lot of, people are scared of those. But I think if you simplify the lesson, and I'm trying to simplify it even to the point that a 16-year-old can get it, anyone can get it. You know what I mean? So I would say becomingwealthy.com, and that's a great way to stay in touch and just following me on social. That would be fantastic.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Michelle. Thank you for all your wealth of information, and we all look forward to becoming wealthy.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.